Bitcoin's technicals are starting to hit some interesting levels. Hey everyone, it's Jenny Horne here, and this is Crypto Corner on Schwab Network. Joining us this week, Nate Peterson, Director of Derivatives Analysis at the Schwab Center for Financial Research. Nate, Bitcoin has continued to slide lower this month. Is it too early to call it a crypto winter, and what really stands out from a technical perspective?
Yeah, no doubt, Jenny. I know, many had hoped for the Uptober that, didn't really quite manifest. And we still have some time here in Q4, which traditionally can be bullish. But let's take a look at the charts. Bitcoin is down about 30% from its highs, roughly 126, 127K back in October. And if you look at where we're sitting now, around 91, 92K, we've broken through the 50-day simple moving average. We've broken through the 100, the 200-day simple moving average. Look at that gold line. If you note back in the April kind of volatility, flash that we got from the tariff tantrum, you can see that Bitcoin held up at that gold 200-day simple moving average. Over the past couple of weeks here, we've broken down below that. So technically, we know that's not a good sign. What to look for from here? Well, I would say if we continue to move lower, that level around the 76 to 80K it would be our next key support. So number one, on a price level basis, that does represent basically those lows that we flirted with back in April. And then if you go back to the Trump victory, we were trading on Bitcoin around 75, 76, gapped up to around that 80. So right around in that area is critical support should we continue to drop there. Now, I think a lot of the weakness that we've seen in Bitcoin, number one, Ginny, we've talked about that October 10th deleveraging day where we kind of had, kind of a mini flash crash basically in Bitcoin prices. Big liquidity day, so to speak. It was the biggest on record. And since then, we've seen a lot of the sentiment sour around the spec trade. A lot of the spec stock names have seen a big corrections as well. I think that's tied into the same category as Bitcoin here. And then some have pointed to this seasonality halving. So if you go back to, this halving event, that's where Bitcoin basically halves the amount of Bitcoins that are released into circulation that are paid to the miners as reward for solving those computations. That gets halved every 4 years. There's only been 4. Last one was April of 2024. And if you come to the current time frame, we're roughly 18 to 20 months ahead of that. Now, some in the crypto community are saying, oh, that's what's going on with this recent weakness. We've seen this historically, meaning only 3 previous times, that Bitcoin has a tendency to peak in price 18 to 20 months post this halving event. And some are pointing to that as being perhaps the cause for that. But, let's be mindful that this is a limited data set that we're working with here. Bitcoin's only been around, 16 years-ish or so. And so, there's only 4 in this data set, including this one. And then B, 18 to 20 months, and I've seen even wider ranges than that. It's not like a tight window. So that could be at play, at least within the psychology of the crypto community. But then lastly, on the bullish side, you can see we've got a green line here on the chart. So back in 2023, Bitcoin started this uptrend. It's bounced off of there multiple times since 2023. This most recent 30% pullback brings us down to potential support at that uptrend line. It's roughly around 91, 92K. So here, over the next couple of days, perhaps the next couple of weeks, if you're bullish, you would like to see a bounce here. That at least would be a positive, Jenny, from this otherwise, pretty sharp sell-off that we've seen over the past 5 weeks.
Okay, and really great points there, as well as some key levels to watch on the Bitcoin front. But what about some other products like Ethereum, Solana?
Yeah, let's quickly touch on Ethereum as well. Of course, we know that correlation within the crypto coins, when Bitcoin suffers, I mean, typically you're going to see the other coins suffer as well. Ethereum, essentially number two out there. Ethereum has pulled back roughly, 37% from its high. So, Jenny, we talked about Ethereum back in the summer. It went up to that 4,900 level, its prior all-time high. It tried to break out multiple times, wasn't able to do so. We didn't get that bullish breakout. Now it's pulled back roughly 37%. But the good news for the Ethereum hopeful bulls would be that we're sitting around this 200-day simple moving average, as denoted by that gold line on the chart there. So let's see if Ethereum can hold up here. There's confluence with Bitcoin attempting to hold up with support at that uptrend line around 91, 92K. So I think we're going to know more here in a couple more days. And then lastly, let's just touch on, perhaps Ethereum's younger brother, Solana. And Solana has seen even a more significant pullback, so higher beta relative to Bitcoin, roughly 50%. But Solana has come back down to roughly this level around 125-ish or so. And you can see if you go 125, 130-ish, but if you go back to the lows previously back in June, as denoted by that green arrow, that candle on the chart, you can see the price low is marked there with the price box. But potentially, now we have confluence. We have 1, 2, 3, that Solana attempting to hold support here around 125, 130. Ethereum attempting to hold support around its 200-day simple moving average around 3,100, and Bitcoin around 91, 92K. So, Jenny, let's keep an eye on these charts here from a technician's perspective over the next week or so.
Okay, so lastly, Block, formerly known as Square, of course, did launch a campaign this week called Bitcoin is Everyday Money. So what really stands out to you about this development?
Yeah, Jack Dorsey basically putting on, obviously Block is owner of Cash and Square, and so therefore he's putting out this message to the community that, as it currently stands, I think most that use Bitcoin or are aware of crypto know that, Bitcoin is considered property. Every basically transaction is a taxable event. So if you go to buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin, that's a taxable event. So that's very cumbersome, of course. And Jack Dorsey is kind of calling to that and saying, look, if you'd like to write to your congressman and get them to implement a de minimis tax exemption for Bitcoin, this would be helpful for everyday purchases so we can move closer to Bitcoin potentially becoming more ubiquitous as a payment within the economy. So, look, I understand from Jack Dorsey's perspective that this would be beneficial to both Square and Cash App. Anything that's going to make it easier to use Bitcoin in your everyday transactions is going to, it's going to be good for Jack Dorsey's businesses, yes, but it's also going to be good for the crypto community. But let's talk about Bitcoin potentially as a replacement, as a world reserve currency, or as something that will be as ubiquitous as fiat or Visa, etc. We still have the problem with transaction times around Bitcoin. We still have price volatility that occurs with Bitcoin, and you also need the ubiquitous nature of merchants accepting Bitcoin everywhere. So it's not like there are many merchants that do accept Bitcoin, but you want it as ubiquitous as fiat or Visa, etc. And then lastly, we've got stable coins, Jenny. So stable coins, they solve a lot of those issues. They have price stability. They're utilizing the blockchain, which was kind of the intent of solving some of the transaction times and some of the settlement times with other, TradFi basically systems. And so stable coins seem like they'd be the most logical replacement going forward. But look, if Bitcoin were to get this de minimis tax exemption, I think that would be a victory for the crypto community.
Yeah, and we'll continue to watch, obviously, as this has definitely been headline generating across the entire industry as far as crypto is concerned. But we so appreciate it, Nate Peterson. That's it for this week's Crypto Corner. Be sure to tune in to Schwab Network every market day for the latest news and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Jenny Horne. Thanks for watching.